I felt like there was a lot of admiration for these athletes, but at the same time, I guess I just wondered if there were other athletes who were more like me or who maybe didn't have this same exact origin story, so to speak. And so as I started to explore different hashtags, like hashtag Asian runners or hashtag Black runners, um, I started to find that yes, there are other runners of color,
Right.
who exist.
You are listening to the No Gimmicks Just Sweat podcast with your host, Eric Logan. No Gimmicks Just Sweat is dedicated to hearing the journeys and unique stories behind an athlete's training and what drives them. Get inspired to own your life and make the impossible possible. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, please take a few seconds to rate the show and drop me a review. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of No Gimmicks Just Sweat, where today we are welcoming Carolyn Su to the show. This is someone I've followed for a while, and I am looking forward to this conversation. Carolyn, how are you doing?
Hello, hello. I am doing well. Thank you so much, Eric, for having me on. I have followed you for a while too, ever since, you were one of the first featured athletes on Diverse We Run. And I just so greatly appreciated your story and your message, to everyone that it's really never too late to start anything, and so it's just been really inspirational, I would say, following you and seeing all the really amazing things that you've been doing. So thank you for having me.
Oh, and the feeling is mutual. Social media is good because a lot of people give it a bad rap sometimes, but you can find, positive messages from social media.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It is, in a way, I think it is what you make of it if you are intentional with how you show up and how you use it.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna kind of start with the warm up, and the warm up just gonna throw out a couple of questions that to kind of break the ice a little bit to allow the listeners to kind of get to know you as well as sometimes I find out something new about the person.
Yeah.
So, are you ready?
Okay, hopefully. Let's go.
All right, morning runs or evening runs?
Oh, morning for sure.
Solo runs or group runs?
I think it kinda depends on the type of run. I do enjoy the solo runs, just especially when it's like I need to clear my mind or, emotionally, maybe I need to process things, but
Yes.
then at the same time, I enjoy running with other people, like, well, group runs, I need to quantify. I think I'm someone who's comfortable running maybe with, like, 2 to 3 people
Okay. Okay.
max, but larger group runs do kinda stress me out, just I don't know, my personality type or something. It feels kind of overwhelming, but I do enjoy, running with, a small group, just whether it's like for a long run, where we can kind of just share in life together and explore, or that kind of thing. Or sometimes I intentionally try to see if I can run with someone faster than I am usually, so that if I have like a workout or harder workout, because then that I feel almost like that competitive side can be tapped into and utilized. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it's kind of both.
Okay. So solo, where you want to kind of reflect
Hmm.
and kind of regroup,
Yeah.
and group as long as it's just a small number.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So run on the treadmill or run outside.
I mean, I think my preference will always be outside, but treadmill runs, I don't hate them. I think they're a good option to have if you have it, especially if it's like icy outside or, I mean, I live in the Boston area, so winters can be really dicey. And, the winters here last almost like half the year, it feels like. So, having a treadmill option, I'm definitely grateful for it and appreciative. But personally, I prefer outdoors.
Okay. Oh, don't feel bad. I've had a couple of guests that are like they prefer treadmill over outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's really remarkable, and that's great. Like, I don't there's no hate here for for the treadmill. I think it's if you enjoy it, great.
All right. So, what's your favorite race distance to run?
Um, I guess it would be the marathon.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I like
Okay.
it.
First thing you do after a race?
After a race,
Yes.
first thing I do, like, I don't know. I mean, I try to drink a lot of electrolytes. It's nothing too spectacular. But yeah, I mean, and then like if I can just, quickly hop into either ice bath or Epsom salt bath.
Oh, okay.
And then I usually like to eat sushi, like raw fish. There's something about
Okay,
like
that's different. That's the first time.
I
Okay, most people generally say something like a burger or pizza or get a beer.
No, yeah, I mean,
Sushi
maybe a
is new.
pizza later. Later, I'll start craving that saltiness of a pizza, but I don't know, there's something like to me, I just crave it like this, that like clean, fresh, raw fish with that sweet rice combination and some champagne maybe. Haha, no, but,
Nice.
um, I just that's just what my body craves.
Nice. All right. So, dream race to run anywhere in the world.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's hard. I mean, I feel like default would be to say, yes, the Boston Marathon. I mean, and I live here in Boston. And so like every year going to cheer, for people, it is really fun. But dream race, gosh, I don't know. I would love to run anywhere that would be adventurous, and a new experience. It could be anywhere. Any of the world majors, obviously, I think would
Okay.
be fun. But even, like, I was just thinking the other day, the Paris Marathon, something
Oh,
like that. Like, I did, run a 20K, in Paris once. It was my husband and I actually went for our 10-year anniversary, and wouldn't you know, there happened to be a race, the weekend that we were there, and so I
happy
went and
anniversary.
signed up.
That's a race.
Like, "Yay, Jimmy, you can come cheer for me." I mean, we did, it was only a 20K, so, it wasn't too
only a
long.
20K. Yeah.
It wasn't too long of a day.
Right.
But yeah, just, like, going anywhere new and different to run, I think any of that would be a dream race for me.
Nice. All right. If you can go on a run with any celebrity or athlete, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, I I think Des Linden?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know, I just think she's really cool and really gritty and funny and just, like, low key. I would love to just kind of, like, do an easy run with her and just hear her commentary and thoughts
Okay.
on, like, where we go.
All right. Last one. Dream location anywhere in the world you want to go for a run. Not a race, just to go out and just run and just enjoy it.
Mm,
Just soak it in.
probably somewhere in the mountains, I think, or just that's a good question. I don't know. Again, it's like anywhere where there can be a lot of, like, scenic views that's different from just being in a city,
Right.
you know?
Well,
So
you live in the city, so you're
yeah.
probably the buildings, cars, that
Yeah,
type
I've
of
seen
thing.
enough, like, pavement and asphalt, thank you. So,
Yeah,
anywhere where there's nature.
where there are trees,
Yeah.
just open skyline, birds and animals.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be cool.
All right. So Carolyn, we followed each other for a while, so
Mhm.
I know a little bit about you, but the listeners need to know about you. So, how did you become the runner, athlete, person that you are now? Again, think of it as this is your origin story. This is how you are a superhero. This is your Marvel Cinematic Universe debut.
Oh gosh. I don't know if my origin story is necessarily as tragic or as exciting
We want to
as
be
it is the
excited, not
Marvel.
necessarily tragic.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, so I am a child of immigrant parents. My parents both came over from Taiwan in their 20s to actually go to grad school. And so I grew up in a Chinese Taiwanese community in Houston, Texas, and they're just I think with a lot of families who come over to establish a new life, the priority is definitely to establish a new life, like
Right.
um, establish a good foundation for your children, and which primarily means, doing well in school and being able to find a good job, that can be steady and secure. And so there really was not much emphasis or focus on athletics, extracurriculars like that, or sports. So I really didn't know anything about running until later in college. And and so really how that came about was um in middle school I guess that was when I started to develop disordered eating habits, and kind of just yeah, uh, that was kind of the start of things, and, it came to a head once I went off to college in Austin, where, I didn't know it at the time, but internally, I think I struggled a lot with identity and also expressing the anxiety, and emotions that I felt. And so, like, culturally speaking, in in a lot of Asian cultures, and I would say specifically for Chinese culture, um, there's the idea of not wanting to burden other people with your emotions or problems, um, out of consideration, for others. And so really, I just I never learned how to express any needs for help, and the thing I learned later on in therapy and counseling is that we all have emotions, and emotions will come out, and they can either come out in healthy ways or they can come out in unhealthy ways. And so when you bottle them up inside, and when you don't know how to process what you're feeling, the anxieties or the stresses that you are holding on to, then it manifests itself in other ways. And for me, I struggled a lot as an Asian American person of not fully necessarily identifying as like a Chinese person, like my parents and like their community, but at the same time, also not feeling or identifying myself as fully American, quote unquote, because of the environment, the social environment that I grew up in, that was primarily predominantly white. And so there were these two, I felt like I was constantly straddling two different worlds and two different sets of expectations of how I was supposed to be and who I was supposed to be. And I didn't quite fit either side. And and on top of that, just learning to navigate the world, like I mean, how how can you navigate a world if you do not know who you are?
Right.
And so that's all of that to say it came to a head starting my freshman year in college, where it was, it's a big change going to college, and it was in a new city, and a lot of new social dynamic changes. And again, going back to that identity uh, issue, the way that I sought to kind of like at least gain a sense of control, or feel like I was in control of something, was to try to mold the way that I looked. And that involved a lot of just monitoring, my food intake and also my calorie expenditure. And so, like I said, I mean, that started in middle school when I was 13. And I went through a lot of different diets, and I like religiously studied all these different health and fitness magazines. And running was the one thing that I had not really tried, because my family had a gym membership, so I was able to like do all the different kinds of cardio machines. But then like running was kind of like, I don't know, it just was never on my radar. But then I w- when I got to college, I guess I became more desperate in trying to figure out ways to burn calories. And so I knew of one classmate who would do weird things. In my mind, they were considered weird. Like he would go camping, or he would go running outside and bike outside. And so and so then I thought, okay, well, like he might be someone good to to go run with. And so I still remember it was actually a rainy afternoon, evening. And so we ran from the center of campus to the Austin Capitol and back, and that was 3 miles in the rain.
Now,
And
wait a minute. So your very first run
yeah,
was in the rain.
yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know, like it was like, oh, this is so fun and so cool, like as a college student, you try to make life difficult for yourself. So yeah, that was my first run. And if I'm honest, I don't remember anything else about that experience, as far as like, oh, did it feel hard, or did I really
Okay.
enjoy it, or anything like that? Because in my mind, all I was focused on was, okay, so how many minutes was that, and how many calories did I burn? You know?
Okay.
So that's really how I actually got into running. It was more this like tool for actually almost like an extension of a cry for help for myself, trying to like hold on to something that I could manage or feel a sense of like stability with. um but thankfully, later, my relationship with running has definitely evolved and changed since then. And it's actually become a, a mechanism through which I have learned to really appreciate, and honor and respect my body now.
Yes.
Um, and like I've learned a lot about where my weak areas are, and
Hmm.
through injury, of course, but also just learning, what my body needs to be strong and to be well nourished, and to be
Yeah.
well cared for. And now running is this means through which I can connect with other people, through which I can like invite others on a run with me, or encourage others in their endeavors. And it's also a way to explore new places, wherever I move to. And so it's been, yeah, like that's my journey into running and where I am with running right now.
Yeah, and it sounds like you developed a very healthy relationship with running. Um, because a lot of times people are very hesitant about running. If
Mhm, mhm.
you were someone who was athletic, or participated in sports in high school, you associated running with punishment, because coach
Yeah,
was always telling you run laps. Oh, you got
right.
run. So you kind of associated running with
Mhm,
punishment. So you develop a dislike for it.
mhm, yeah.
Uh, and if you weren't athletic, it seems like the people who weren't, from just my experience, that you seem to be more accepting of running,
Mm,
because it's
yeah.
something new and it's something that you can do.
Yeah, and it's something that you choose to
Yeah.
do versus, I guess, if it's your coach telling you and kinda, like, forcing you to go do it.
Yes.
That's right, as a punishment or, whatever, so
Yes. So what does a day or a week of training look like for you? And do you have a coach that you work with, or do you pretty much self coach?
Yeah, now I do have a coach that I work with. I for like the good, I don't know, 10, 15 years, initial years of my running, I was just self-coached. Um, because I guess I just always thought that like, you have to be a I don't know, like a quote unquote good runner, a good enough runner maybe to justify hiring a coach. And so a lot of anytime I trained for a race or even learned about a race or anything was or like different exercises to do, it was always through just like Runner's World magazines
Right.
or whatever I could find, whatever training plans or something that I could find online. And but then I guess, like, I just at some point, maybe it was through, as I started to get mental health counseling and therapy, I just saw the value in, having an outside expert,
Mhm.
be able to tailor something specifically for me. Yeah, so I don't think it was until later though, in my adult years that I was able to budget enough to like prioritize, I guess, hiring a coach.
Right.
So yeah, so now I do, and I've worked with at this point, I think 3 different running coaches. And the coach that I work with now, Sarah Canny, I mean, she's great. And I feel like we are in sync with each other. She understands and sees me as a person, a whole person, not just like strictly as a runner prescribe and through to whom she prescribes running workouts, but she understands that as a mom of 2 young kids, and as
Right.
a person who is involved with other things in life and that life doesn't I mean running doesn't happen in a vacuum, and these other things do impact our abilities to work out and to run.
Right.
And she also helps me with my own mental self-talk as well. And so I've really appreciated working with her. And so she sets right now, like we regularly keep in touch and talk, and she knows what I'm working towards, what my goals are, and then we adjust our training plan according to like every 2 weeks or so, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned your wife, your mom.
Mhm.
Um, have you found it easy to find that type of balance to be able to juggle a lot of things and still get enjoyment from running?
It is constantly a juggle, I would say. That can look different. I mean, definitely looks different week to week, if not day to day. That's I think another reason why I appreciate having kind of like a plan, in that I can kind of look ahead to for the week and see like what workouts are scheduled, and then kind of also align that with my family schedule, knowing what's coming up. And if I know it's going to be a really busy week with the family, with different things, whether it's doctor's appointments or other activities, then I have to factor that in and
Right.
like either decide like maybe I need to talk with my coach and scale back the workouts for the week, or I don't know, or like
Right.
something else in the schedule is going to have to kind of give. And I mean, yeah, so it is constantly this like delicate dance, I should say. And then
Right.
also, of course, like factoring in like my husband and his meeting schedules or his health and things. And we do have to constantly, I feel like, just constantly keep those lines of communication open with one another, and just be flexible. I mean, I
Yeah. I
guess
mean,
that's life, right?
yeah. I mean, and that's exactly what it is, life. And I think a lot of times, you know, again, looking at social media, we see, we post our runs, we post our workouts, our bike rides or whatever not.
Mhm,
But there's a lot outside of what you see posted that goes
mhm,
on.
mhm.
I think some some people get it and they go like, okay, wow, this person can fit this in, and can see that as an inspiration that, okay, this person has, you know, family obligations, work and stuff, and they still can fit in, um, you know, care for their health. Um, and they can see that. And a lot of people just kind of, sometimes it's hard for them to realize, like, well, how can you do all that
Mhm.
and, still have a good family life?
Mhm. Yeah. It's I mean, definitely social media doesn't show everything.
Right.
But I mean, for me, I found that establishing as much of a routine as possible helps to at least give a framework for expectations, and for me, that routine is to be able to get to bed, I don't know, 10, even that sounds late, but so that I can wake up earlier in the morning and try to get my run or my bike ride in, and then, like, be able to have the rest of the morning to help the kids get ready for school and then do whatever else needs to be done, and sometimes we're able to adhere to that, but other times, like if someone in the family is sick or has something else
Yeah.
come up, and like that morning spot is taken, then that's that. And I got to either roll with it and try to see if I can run later in the day,
Right.
or like just kind of be okay and recognize this one day, that's all right, and you move forward. It's
Right.
not like a that's it, all or nothing kind of thing, but yeah, having at least a framework to fall back on is always like that's what has worked well for me and my family, at least.
Good. Yes. Yes. And again, I follow you, so I see what you post in your stories and stuff, and you are juggling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well, she fit a run in.
Do what we can.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's it. You just do what you can.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that means only getting maybe a mile run in instead of three, you got a mile in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Something is still better than nothing too, and I'm learning to be okay with that. Like letting go of that perfectionistic side as well.
Yes, definitely. So let's kind of flip it a little bit
Mhm.
and let's talk about Diverse We Run.
Mhm.
And I think that's how you and I made our initial connection.
Yes, yeah.
Um, so talk a little bit about Diverse We Run and why you started it.
Yeah. So, Diversity Run is at this point now an Instagram platform through which I share stories of athletes or mainly runners who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and just like share how the intersection of our race and culture, go together with our running journey and how it has shaped and impacted, our entry into running and our experience in running. Because, I mean, I think you and I both know um, it's different. And showing up as a Black person or as an Asian American person in sports, especially like endurance sports, it's not as clear and, I guess, simple as just, oh, lacing up your shoes and showing up,
Right.
and going out. There are a lot of other factors, whether it's community or location, geographically where you are, and a bunch of other things, right, that shape that and impact that. And
Yes.
so, basically, I mean, a few years ago when I first started to finally kind of explore this whole community aspect of running, for I would say like really for a long time in this sport, running was not really seen as a community thing. It was more individual
Yeah.
individual pursuits and accomplishments, right?
Yes.
And and the growth of different running crews, groups, really, I don't think that has happened until the recent, even like 10 years, I would say, and I think
Mhm.
that's kind of a generous estimation. um, and so a lot of that also has come on through social media, right? A lot of either via Instagram or also like podcasts. have been the main form, I think, of like social connecting, aside from like just publication, like running publications. And so as I started to explore more of the running community through Instagram and through a different podcast, I think just what I started to notice was almost this like pattern of the type of runners who were constantly being featured and whose stories and journeys were being shared. And they were all of, you know, white middle middle class, upper middle class runners who grew up with a supportive, family environment in running or sports at least, and then who are now like racing, multiple marathons a year, world majors, traveling, and doing great things. And I guess it just I felt like there was a lot of admiration for these athletes, but at the same time, I guess I just wondered if there were other athletes who were more like me or who maybe didn't have this same exact origin story, so to speak. And so as I started to explore different hashtags, like hashtag Asian runners or hashtag Black runners, I started to find that yes, there are other runners of color,
Right.
who exist. And yet, for whatever reason, once again, it was like there were these two different worlds of there's this quote unquote white American world with very beautiful pictures of runners after their runs, posting their stats, standing with their six pack abs, and talking about qualifying for Boston and all of these things. But then there's this other world where even like the way that people would pose for pictures, um, looked different, even just on that surface level, where the reasons why people showed up to run were so different from just like personal PRs, and so then I started to wonder like why, like I want to hear more of these stories, and but at the same time, like why were they not being shared as much? So then at first I thought, well, maybe it's just that like these podcasters or these main like these big media publications, maybe they just don't know, don't have the social network uh, of anyone, I guess, outside of the white majority community. And so I reached out to some of these, I guess, run influencers to kind of suggest, like, oh, hey, like, do you know so and so, these runners? Because I've noticed there kind of seems to be a pattern in the runners who are often featured, and maybe we can like share. Other stories to be a little more
Right.
representative.
Yes.
And I mean, this was pre 2020. This was like around 2018.
Hmm.
And I think, quite frankly, a lot of people were just still very uncomfortable even addressing or acknowledging the fact that there were racial differences. I mean, even now, I would say people are uncomfortable talking about it. But back then definitely. And so people would always respond with like very nice messages back, but more or less it was like just a nice way of saying no. Thank you
Right.
though. So after a while, and like, talking more with other runner friends who expressed that same frustration. um I think I just got to a point where I felt tired of like hearing no's and tired of people feeling like this wasn't a real problem. And so I decided, okay, well, if no one else is going to tell stories of our community, then I'm going to. And so that's how I started Diversity Run. Long story short.
Right.
Yeah, and it started just as a hashtag at first, because I felt too afraid of making it an official Instagram account. But then after about a month, I made it into its own account. And yeah, like the rest is history, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
I mean, and the thing about it is that I know for me, it's gotten me to kind of discover new people.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, let me follow this person.
yeah,
Because generally, again, like you were saying, when I first started my fitness journey and stuff, and I get on Instagram, I'm like, okay, who should I follow? You're trying to go through and find people to follow.
yeah, mhm,
And, generally, you're going to get the people that come up are generally people that are the most common people that come up
mhm, mhm,
by athletes. But then, you really don't see the people that look like you
mhm,
or the people who are, for lack of a better term, the same level as you. They
mm,
might
mhm,
not be, they're recreational, they're
mhm.
age groupers.
Yeah,
You generally don't they don't immediately pop up as the first thing if you type
mhm,
in hashtag runners
mhm.
or hashtag, do athlete, hashtag triathlete.
Yeah, mhm,
You have certain people that pop up first. So that's where, it was kind of a big thing for me to kind of see that, like, okay, there are other people that are doing this thing.
mhm,
Um, I know even for me as a duathlete, finding other, you know, duathletes, especially black duathletes, been kind of
mhm.
hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though the duathlon community is very small and you generally see everybody that
Mm,
you
mhm,
be like, oh yeah, okay, we race regularly. It's so hard finding people that like, oh, okay, connecting people that look like me,
mm, mhm.
or and a lot of people that do duathlons, there are very few that are like, okay, I only do duathlons and that's it.
Okay.
And to find people who, again, to find that community, um, to connect with that, again, that look like you, can be tough, especially depending on the
Mhm,
region that you live in.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and we need that. We need to see that there are people like us, and we also need to see that there are people not like us, right?
Right.
Like, everyone benefits, from a diversity of people and of stories and experiences, and I'm glad that in the recent couple of years, it seems like more people are recognizing that, um, and yeah, that's one of the most beautiful aspects, I think, um, of Diverse We Run, is when I hear from people like you, saying that it's allowed you to connect with other people whom you otherwise might not have known about,
Right.
and so that's great.
Yes. Yes. All right. All right. So this is kind of a two-part question for you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
All right. Your proudest moment as a runner, and then the second part is your worst moment or biggest mistake you've made as a runner.
Ooh. Um, okay, I'll start with my worst moment
Okay.
since that's, like, definitely always fresh on my mind. It's just easier to think about. Like, so worst, I would say, or a low point, was the 2018 California International Marathon, where, I I had been training for it, and, it was it was a low point for me, not because of my time or anything, but, because of the mental headspace that I went into. Um, the it so first of all, I thought that the course was gonna be, quote, unquote, "fast and flat," because I mean, that's first of all how so many people described that course. It's like a net downhill, and it's so flat, and it's so fast, and it's like one of the biggest qualifiers for Boston and blah, 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 all this stuff, and I flew out there with that expectation that I was gonna maybe not qualify for Boston quite yet, but, like, that I was gonna get this huge PR, and I felt so good with my training cycle, and um but really the reality was it was that California International Marathon is not flat. It is a series of rolling hills, like all the way pretty much till the end. And um, oh my goodness, like by
They
mile
lied. They
9,
lied.
yes, I mean, ugh. So, like, even when you look at the elevation map online, like, it's very deceiving. But, definitely by even mile 9, like, my legs were already feeling so tired, and I just my mind immediately went to this really dark place of negative self-talk and just saying things like, you know, "The only reason you think that this is hard is because you're not a strong enough runner. You know, you are
Okay.
just you're too weak. You didn't train well enough, or your body is just not made to run marathons, and you are never going to qualify for Boston. You just need to let that go." Like that was what I was saying to myself. And I was in that dark space pretty much all the way till the end. Like I crossed that finish line crying, and I have never cried at a race
Oh,
finish before. Like I've had hard races before, but like it was just this like huge I mean, I was almost like looking back, I was shocked at how I spoke to myself. But it was a wake-up call, and that race made me realize like I cannot keep speaking to myself that way. Um and how I needed to change that. And so it was actually after that race that I started to, I guess, kind of like learn and put into practice just being proud of myself, even for small things or seemingly small things, I guess I should
yeah,
say. And after that was when I started to, 2019, I had my New Year's resolution was to write down one thing, at least one thing I was proud of after every workout. And so I got a journal book, and that's what I did because I just needed to like, I don't know, that was like one place to start. And it felt so awkward and uncomfortable and unnatural, quite frankly, to be like, I'm proud of, the
right.
fact that I really worked hard, just something like that, even something as simple as that. But like over time and up until now, it's been this like process and practice of self-acceptance like and I think that I needed to hit that hard point, that low point, in order to be where I am now and like feel a sense of true confidence that I can reach the goals that I have set for myself, instead
Yeah,
of it being this like, hopefully I'll make it one day. But like it's like how can you I guess, how can you love yourself and believe in yourself to reach things, if you don't even accept who you are, right? And
right.
so, yeah, like that was, I would say, the hardest race or like worst race that I had. Again, not because of performance, but because of just, w- yeah, that
Yeah.
mental headspace that I was in. And so I guess then on the flip side, um, like the best race. Now, like, um, I guess it really now that like I have spent the last couple of years learning to not base my sense of I guess like worth based on my performance. Um I have really been thankful for every race that I've run so far. Since because they've all taught me and given me different things. And I guess like I guess I just maybe my most recent race was a great race, I could say. It was a 5K here at the beginning of December, and I would call it my best race just simply because that was the first race that I was a team captain, that I just took on my own volition to create a team and invite people and and kind of just like organize. And the people who were on my team were a bunch of them were new runners. A couple of they were just basically from like all different, I guess, different backgrounds, and different ages, different places in their athletic journey as well. And to me, that was also really significant to see the diversity in this team and this group of people who we were all that we all came together to have fun at this one race. It was like a jingle bell race, so we all like wore ugly Christmas sweaters. And I mean, my team name was Runny McRunnerson, so like it was definitely a very serious team here. But like just to like see the new connections that people were able to make and enjoy this sport together despite like our differences, like it was just very beautiful to me. And I felt like I ran a good race just in terms of like my effort. And yeah, so like I just felt like, what more could I ask for? This is great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn, what's next for you? Are you training for anything now? You got any races on the calendar?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, there is a marathon coming up in May in Maine. So,
In May in Maine.
May in Maine, I know, right? Oh, so it's the Sugarloaf Marathon, and yeah, so I'm currently training for that. Um and hopefully chipping away to qualify for Boston eventually. So
Awesome. You're gonna do it. You're gonna.
yeah, it's just a matter of I don't know when, but I know that I'll get there.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time. It's right at 2.5.
Hmm.
All right. Any last words you want to share with the listeners?
Um, I would say, yeah, if you can, go outside today. Go for a run. But really get outside and be thankful that we're able to do what we can do, each day, to move, to be alive, and
Yes.
to be connected with people. Yeah.
Yes, that's great advice. Carolyn, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, really.
All right. If people wanted to kind of connect with you or get in contact with you, how can they do so?
You can find me on Instagram. I have two accounts. My personal account is at I Run for the Glory, and my other account is at Diverse We Run. So either of those, if you want to DM me, then yeah, that I think is the easiest way to reach me.
All right. Great. Carolyn, again, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great day.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in each week. If you enjoyed today's show, please support us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell your friends about the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast, so we can continue to have awesome conversations with everyday athletes just like you. Until next time, have an amazing week.